Log files are critical when we are troubleshooting attacks or investigating breaches in our vSphere infrastructure. As such, it is critical that they are captured and stored securely. So in this module, we're going to take a look at the different log files and the different levels of login that we can configure in our vSphere environment. Apart from monitoring with events and alarms, objects within our vSphere environment also generate logs. These logs contains additional information about activities in our virtualized environment. So there are basically two types of logs that we can monitor in our environment. Firstly, we have our vCenter server system logs. This is accessible from the monitoring tab of our vCenter server. And the vCenter server logs data about the objects that are being managed by that particular vCenter server. Also, we can monitor our host or system logs through the DCUI or the Direct Console user interface. The host system logs provides information on the ESXi host operations events, and we can access this by going to the View System Logs menu under our DCUI. So these are the various system logs that we can capture on our DCUI. So let's get to the vSphere Web Client, and then I can go through these here. Sorry, my DCUI. Let's go through this first, and then we'll get to our vSphere Web Client and look at the vCenter server log. So I'm at my DCUI here. Let me just hit on F2, authenticate here. In our menu here, if we use our down arrow and come all the way down to View System Logs, we have a couple options over on the right there. We have 6 options here. So let's say, for example, we needed to view our VM kernel logs. I will just hit on the number 2 here. And once I hit on 2, this will take me to my VM kernel log. To exit out of this, I'll just hit Q or quit, as you can see at the bottom there. So starting with 1 in our list here, we have our syslog. These are basically messages from the VM kernel or other system components. We have our VM kernel logs. This would show our uptime and stuff like our availability statistics for this particular host. We also have our config log here. We can configure the amount of data our vCenter server collects in log files. So there are 6 options, as we can see here. As we move from the top to the bottom of this list, the more information is collected. So for variables login, for example, here, this would collect more information as compared with error. So it would collect information, error, warning from this list going downwards. The default login level is the midpoint, which is our information or normal login. Ideally, you would want to leave the login at the default level. Since collecting more information can degrade the performance in our infrastructure. So more information here is not necessarily a good thing. You would want to collect more information only if you're trying to troubleshoot a problem or if your company's security policy requires you to do so. Okay, so let me pull up my vSphere Web Client here, and then we can go through these settings in detail. So I'm at the home here. If I go to our inventory list and then go to the vCenter server here, select my vCenter server here, and then go over to manage. So we'll come back to the monitoring tab here where we can look at this and export the logs, but let's go to manage for now. So we are on the vCenter server, then manage. If I come across here to edit and come all the way down here to login settings, here's where we could configure these different or the amount of level that this vCenter server would log. Okay, so if I click the drop down list here, this is what we would have seen on the slides. By default, it is set to information. So the first level here, but basically we could set this to none, and this would disable login completely on this vCenter server. So generally, it's not the best practice to just disable it. We can do error. If we set this to error, it would only display the entries for error, and that's it. If we move down to warning, this would display information for both errors and our warnings. Okay, as I mentioned, info is our default. Once it's set to info, we'll collect data for errors, warning. So basically errors and warnings with a verbose login. Coming down in our list here, verbose. This would capture information, error, and warning logs along with verbose details. This is useful too in troubleshooting scenarios. Okay, so we could enable this, capture data for over a period, and then we could change this back. Finally, in our list here, we have trivia. Um, so trivia provides information, error, warning, and trivia logs with verbose details. So this provides more information, or the most information that we can capture. And basically, if we turn this on, it would capture a fair amount of data and utilize a good amount of storage space. So we'll need to cater for this. Generally, though, you'll just want to turn this on in a troubleshooting scenario, and then once you capture that data, you could turn this off back. So if I cancel out of this here, so let's go over to our monitoring tab now. So I'm still at the vCenter server level here, monitoring tab, and then system logs here. So here we can view our system logs, and we do have a lot of options here. If we need to view more lines here, we could just select those at the bottom. What we can do is export the system log here. If I click on export there, so we could create a log bundle here. If you're requesting support from VMware and we need to export these logs to them, we can do that, or even for our own purposes, if we want to keep a copy in a separate location, we can do this. So let me just select my ESXi host here. Let's just say we are trying to gather log from one of our hosts. I could also include the vCenter server and the web client logs here, but I'm not going to do that now. Let's just leave this selected for ESXi 1. Okay, so here we have some different options for the logs that we can capture on that particular host. Sorry, not capture, but export for that host. So we could just select here and then check or uncheck what we are trying to export. Okay, so once we have this selected here, I could go ahead and generate this log bundle. So let me do that. I'll generate this bundle. So it's already generated. Once this is generated, then I can go and hit and download. So download this to my local system here. And then once this is downloaded, we could use some other tool to analyze this data. So I'll just save it on my desktop. This would take like a minute or two, and once this is completed, this log bundle would be saved in a zip file on my desktop. So I'll just pause the recording here, and then we'll just take a look at this once this is completed. So this is completed. It took like about three minutes. So I can just hit on finish here now. So if I go to my desktop, I should see this. So here it is with the date. Okay, so it's about, for this particular host, it's about 40 megs here. Okay, So there isn't a whole lot going on here to configure in login. Um, this is basically all I wanted to cover in this module. So we did cover exporting of our system logs here, and also taking a look at a different level if we need to make a change on the level of logging that we want to capture, or we want our vCenter server to capture here. Okay, so this is all for this module. In our next module, we'll get into the discussion and configuration of our ESXi memory dumps.